Allied Demand. This is the Iron Banner sidearm this season with Season of the Plunder. Today, guys, we're going to be reviewing a number of rolls on this thing, talking about perks, and of course, where this sidearm sits on the meta. Now, when we talk about like the best sidearms out there, immediately what comes to mind is a sidearm within the same archetype that Allied Demand is in, and that is, of course, Drang. Drang is by far one of the best sidearms, if not one of the best weapons in the game, for a number of reasons. It's craftable, you can get things like Enhance and Incandescent, and a number of other enhanced perks. And by the way, if you haven't checked out a review for that one, feel free to check that out. But other sidearms that are very good are things like Forgiveness, which is the Trials of Osiris sidearm, which can roll with things like Alacrity. We also have the new seasonal sidearm, Brigand's Law, as well as Boudica, which is a Hake sidearm. Some of my other personal favorites include Peace Bond, Empirical Evidence is pretty good. And then we have a number of like exotic sidearms, things like Rat King, Devil's Ruin, Traveler's Chosen, Trespasser, etc. Now, I bring up these other sidearms because I want you to know going into these reviews, I like to have a comprehensive look at everything. We make comparisons. We want the best sidearm in our hands. And ultimately, we want to decide whether or not Allied Demand, in this case, is that best sidearm. Now, you've probably noticed that this weapon does do kinetic damage. It's present in the kinetic slot. It's in an adaptive frame archetype. But when you actually go to Saladin, it shows it as stasis. Now, at least in the database, it's still a kinetic weapon. So that's just got to be a bug there when you go to Focus Ingrams. And by the way, we have an Iron Banner guide for those interested. Now, some key things about Allied Demand that's really good in comparison to the likes of Drang, its base stability is actually higher, and its base aim assist is higher by plus 15. Matter of fact, Allied Demand has 85 aim assists, which amongst adaptive sidearms, that's very good. Matter of fact, it has an aim assist value identical to Traveler's Chosen, which is arguably why Traveler's Chosen feels as good as it feels, on top of both of these weapons being in the same archetype. And when we talk about like the best archetype of sidearms, for me, inside of PvP, despite there being some sidearms out there that have better TTK values, most notably your 3-round burst sidearms or even some of your exotics, which can touch up to like 0.5 second TTKs, which is very fast, adaptives to me is the sweet spot. They have a 0.6 time to kill value, but what they have over your 3-round burst sidearms is of course range. They just have a hell of a lot of reach, which allows these sidearms to contend and essentially like last word territory. Now, when we actually take a look here at the different traits you can get on this weapon, again, the origin trait found on all Iron Banner weapons is Skulking Wolf. Essentially, while at low health, Guardian Final Blows of this weapon grant enhanced radar and remove you from opposing radar. Very, very nice, especially for something like a sidearm, you're trying to close the gap and remove yourself from the opponent's radar. Now, the traits here, we have things like Under Over, where you deal bonus damage to targets with overshield, deals a small amount of bonus damage to combatant shields. We also have Gutshot Straight, where aiming down sights increases body shot damage, but decreases target acquisition. Now, this directly affects aim assist cones by approximately 35%. Now, the damage increase is actually 20% on things like bows and hand cannons. So Gutshot Straight is actually better on those weapon types, but for the likes of sidearms, it's only 10%, which means you're getting this ginormous reduction in your aim assist cone, but you're only getting 10% more damage. Now, damage values for Allied Demand, like other 300s, starts off at 51 damage per crit and actually 36 damage per body. I know there's some rounding, but it's 36. This actually increases with gut shots to still the same damage value per crit at 51, but the body shot does increase up to 40. Again, though, some rounding, so probably 39. The point is, though, is that you are able to 3-crit one-body Guardians pretty much at 5 to 6 resilience or less, whereas the majority of the time, Allied Demand at base requires 4 crits, just like Drang. Now, I said 0.6 time to kill is its optimal TTK, but if that was to extend to, say, 5 shots instead of 4, guys, that's not the end of the world. You're still looking at a 0.8 time to kill value. That's still very fast. And what makes sidearms so good is their consistency and ease of use, their ability to flinch opponents, etc. To me, I think sidearms are extremely meta within its intended ranges. My experience though with Gutshot Straight, and we had a couple rolls yesterday that we were trying because I desperately wanted to know, could Gutshot work? Could we actually make this perk be an option for us here? Short answer, no. Even with the likes of like rapid hits, or if we even bumped its range up with rangefinder, Gutshot Straight at the end of the day just hurts way too much. And the only way I can really make Gutshot Straight work is the enhanced version of this trait. And that's simply because the enhanced version is only decreasing your target acquisition slightly. To what degree is that? I don't know. Maybe it's only 20%. Still substantial. Again, those cones, they matter. And I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't matter too much, at least for certain inputs like mouse and keyboard, but the drop off in target acquisition was definitely noticeable on both input devices. Which leaves us with the other 4 options in that final column. We have things like Frenzy, which gives us a 15% increase in damage if we remain remain in combat for 12 seconds, as well as a big bump there in handling and reload speed by plus 50. Damage-wise, Frenzy actually increases our crit shot damage to around 58 to 59, body shot damage around 41 to 42. Again, rounding. Multi-kill clip is pretty good here, allowing us to get that 17% increase in damage with that first stack. Of course, it goes to 33% and then 50% at that third. The point is, though, it can essentially 3-tap with multi-kill clip. TTK-wise, we're talking a fast 0.4, which is incredible. We also have the likes of Eye of the Storm, which increases our weapon's accuracy and handling as our health gets lower. And then Iron Reach, which massively improves the weapon's range at the cost of stability. This perk hurts, guys. Again, I don't really like perks like this, where it's like, yo, sure, you can get plus 20 in range, but minus 30 stability. Your weapon's got a hell of a lot of reach, but you can't hit anything. And when we actually do like a side-by-side comparison of like a max range roll on Allied Demand, this is full bore, accurized rounds, rangefinder, Iron Reach, and a ranged masterwork, we would reach up to 18.95 meters. Fellas, we don't even touch 19 meters with this adaptive sidearm, which by the way, Drang is able to do without the likes of rangefinder, or even using barrel perks like full bore. Drang can accomplish this with simply hammerforged rifling, accurized rounds, and a ranged masterwork. And that's because Drang actually has 14 zoom, whereas Allied Demand has only 12. And that's really what's hurting this weapon. And so if you were to remove something like Iron Reach, this would actually trim off about 3/4 of a meter. Now, that's not the end of the world. And considering how badly it hurts stability, and there's so many benefits to stability now, from just landing your shots in between all the recoil that you're having to deal with and combating flinch, and you see this sidearm literally jumping out of my hands, Iron Reach, in my opinion, is just not the way to go. I would prefer either one of these damage perks or even just tack on Eye of the Storm for that increase in accuracy in those 1v1 duels. However, I think rangefinder is a must in that first column. I love rapid hits. I even try to use an air assault roll. Despite those things though, because the base zoom on Allied Demand is so low, you need rangefinder to bring it up to par. And again, even with rangefinder on this weapon, it's still going to be a meter shy of what Drang can accomplish. And where Drang comes in is, again, its ability to have enhanced traits. One other thing I gotta say about Allied Demand, I can actually use many of the sidearms without full auto. I don't know what it is about this sidearm though. Allied Demand requires me to use full auto. Now I know this is gonna be an accessibility mod, which desperately needs to happen sooner rather than later. It's coming in season 19. I get it. Hallelujah. With that being said though, I tried using Allied Demand, just tap firing, and it almost felt like the weapon was like jamming on me, or it wasn't actually reaching 300 rounds per minute. Now maybe it's because it does have that silencer in the end. The sound is kind of muffled, and I'm not exactly getting the reassurance of my shot being fired because I can't quite hear it. But I just noticed multiple times that I would be shooting, I just felt like I wasn't able to shoot at the full RPMs that the weapon is spec'd for. However, whenever I did put on full auto, I felt much better with that. And I've used full auto on things like Drang and other sidearms, and they're really, really good there. But Allied Demand, I think it's a necessity if you're gonna rock this sidearm to use a full auto retrofit mod. Again, one day, this will be an accessibility mod. Therefore, you won't have to rock a mod like this. You can rock things like Icarus or even a targeting adjusting mod. Overall, fellas, my thoughts on Allied Demand is that it is a cool sidearm. Again, this is a refurbished sidearm. It's been in the game before. It has a number of really good trait combinations. Where the weapon lacks, though, is in its base stats. And in comparison to things like Drang and even other exotic sidearms, in my opinion, Allied Demand just doesn't have a place. For PvE players, though, you can rock things like Subsistence and Frenzy, which can work for you all day long. You can even do things like Rapid Hit and Multi-Kill Clip together. And I actually think it's got some pretty good options if you're looking for a kinetic sidearm, especially for artifact mods gauge for sidearms. But considering this is a PvP weapon and it's an Iron Banner weapon, I was hoping for more out of this sidearm. And I was primarily hopeful that it was going to take on Drang and become the best sidearm in the game. But from our experience, Drang is still the #1 legendary adaptive. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you think. Our next weapon we're going to be reviewing is the auto rifle Amit, and it is disgusting. By the way, if you haven't checked out a review for the perfected BXR, feel free to check that one out. Definitely worth the grind. We've got a number of reviews lined up, fellas, so we're going to be spitting them out one after another. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.